What up, fam? It's another beautiful morning. You can see the sun coming up on me right here as I'm walking around. It always looks a little brighter on the phone, actually, which is a good thing. And you can see me, which, well, I don't know, that don't really matter. Talking about listening right now anyway, right? So on this walk, I've been thinking about anxiety a lot. I actually had a good conversation with a homeboy of mine about anxiety and the ins and outs, and something that I've noticed over the years I've practiced clinical mental health. I officially started practicing in 2017 in February. So over these years, in addition to my master's program and what I've been learning in my doctorate program, is anxiety is so much more prevalent. But just like there are good and bad forms of stress, there are good and bad forms of anxiety. And really, anxiety and stress are more or less synonymous, okay? There's more nuance there, but for the purpose of this walk and our conversation, pretty much the same thing. Oh man, this is nice. Whew, I love that, man. I love a little water right there. That look good. Woo, yeah. Again, still don't have my earbuds. And I have anxiety about keeping up with things, about losing stuff, about managing myself, getting out the door, being relatively on time. And there's a lot of reasons why I have anxiety around stuff like that, but I never really realized it, right? And men we have a lot more anxiety than we really want to acknowledge, y'all. A lot of us resort to yelling, and especially when we're large and kind of intimidating the folks, whether accurate or not, right? When we're yelling and getting angry, I mean, that's a little wild, man. Testosterone is a hell of a hormone, y'all. We talk about women being emotional and sensitive and all that, and everyone is emotional and sensitive. Men are incredibly emotional and sensitive. Testosterone is actually less predictable than estrogen and some of the other hormones that women have. Testosterone has a lot more variability in how it affects the behavior of us men. And you can talk to trans women. These are women who were assigned the gender of man at birth, of male at birth, and transitioned to a woman. So for those trans women who have taken testosterone, some of them have talked about it. They have said things like, "This is how you feel? What? How do you not just kill people?" I'm not killing anyone, okay? But we don't know what each other experiences. Now, I'm always going to default to women have the harder experience overall, especially when you look at the intersectionality with women. And that intersectionality means the combination of marginalized identities. So brown women, black women, disabled women, brown, black, disabled women, LGBTQ women, right? Disabled, black, brown, LGBTQ women. The more that you get into those identities of intersectionality, the greater a lot of oppression becomes, the greater a lot of mental health issues become, because there's pressure. There's pressure on people, right? Well, men have a lot of pressure too. And I know some people get upset with privilege conversations, but they need to be had. People need to understand their privilege. I have a lot of privileges. Look, y'all, I'm a black man. I can sit here and openly admit that I have a lot of privileges. I'm still a black man. My privileges exist because I'm very able-bodied. I'm taller than average. I think I'm a little easy on the eyes sometimes. Probably not early in the morning when I'm like squinting and looking a mess. But all that stuff helps, right? I'm muscular. I'm physically fit. I'm intelligent. There's a lot of privilege that I get in that space. Not because I'm a black man, but because I'm a man with all those other attributes, right? But that black man piece and that disabled black man, if you want to consider ADHD, dyslexia, anxiety, depression, a disability, which it is under the American Disabilities Act, well, then I'm intersectional, right? And that causes a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, because we're thinking about all this different stuff. And then we tend to pass that on to our children. I love my parents, love my dad, You know, when I was a kid, it was always, why are you losing everything? Why are you wrong way, Corrigan? I was horrible with sense of direction. I lost everything. I never turn anything on time. Honestly, still don't in school. You know, I made a lot of careless errors because I'm dyslexic. I'm just skimming through stuff a lot of times, you know, but I didn't understand those strengths, right? And so that adds an additional layer of anxiety, and this performance and expectations that we hold add an additional layer of anxiety. So let me say a little something here about this, right? You ever experienced administrative bureaucracies and systems that are predominantly brown and black? Okay, think about that. It seems to be a little bit lackadaisical sometimes. Like a lot of times people will say, oh man, you know, these systems, the administrative qualities in these systems aren't working as efficiently as, you know, a PWI, predominantly white institution, or something else, which I don't think is as accurate as people think, but there's a different pressure about expectations and time and meeting those expectations and being punctual. I remember when I was in India in 2007, and I just fell in love with India, man. It was the first time I've been around people who all were my complexion, everywhere, on TV, on the news, on newspapers, walking around. Everyone had varying shades of my complexion. So for the most part, I kind of blended in. And so I was up there for my homeboy's wedding. Him and his, former girlfriend, now wife, they were both college sweethearts. I knew them in undergrad. They were master's students. But when I was hanging out with them and their friends in Ahmedabad, one of them was talking about IST, Indian Standard Time. And they were talking about how Indians are late everywhere they go, right? Black people have CPT, colored people time, because we late everywhere we go. At least some of us are, right? So that decrease in demand on time and expectations, we still place a lot of importance, a lot of rigor around what we produce, the quality of our work, right? How effective is it? But some of those logistics really aren't that important. I'm not saying they're not important, but what happens is life is hard. We're dealing with a lot of other struggles and pressures from this society that creates a lot more anxiety than we realize. And so it's like, hey, life is tough, y'all. We don't have to put all this additional pressure. These are choices. These are choices. We can make different choices. So look, man, that's a roundabout way of saying we got to think about who we are as people, culturally, racially, ethnically. And what does that mean? Yo, I'm over here trying to dodge these sprinklers, right? Yo, oh. Look, you see this? Trying to dodge these things, trying to get a brother. But we got to think about that. And when we understand the complexities and the nuances behind our identities, we can also understand how those identities have maybe marginalized aspects of those identities. Even for those who are privileged, there's expectations, and sometimes we can take that for granted. I grew up, by the time I was in high school, my parents were making really good money. Okay, my dad was making really good money. I say my parents because my mom wasn't working, but I mean, my dad definitely leaned on her to help him make. These sprinklers about to get me. Sprinklers gonna get me. My dad definitely leaned on her to do a lot, right? Manage the home, do the majority of the cooking, drop the kids off, pick them up, keep the house clean, do all this stuff, help him manage some of his logistics. That's an unpaid job, y'all. He wouldn't be able to do all the stuff that he was doing without her doing that. So it's both of their money. But there was a lot of privilege that I had coming from parents who had college degrees, parents who were making pretty well into the six figures, but there's still a lot of pressure. So the pressure for me was, here I am, firstborn of this tall black man who wrote a bestseller novel, who makes all this money, who's articulate, people look up to him and stuff. There's a lot of pressure, especially coming from a black male. We have to preserve this privilege. We got to look out. We got to be on guard. Everything has to be perfect. That's a lot of anxiety. It's a lot of anxiety, y'all. I promise you, you have a lot more anxiety than you realize. Now, we need some anxiety in this world, in our current world today, because that anxiety will give us some drive. It'll give us some motivation. But like for me, I started taking Prozac a few weeks ago. It's one of the reasons why I got some of my energy back. I'm on the lowest dose, 10 milligrams, very low dose. But it's enough where I can feel my anxiety, but I can implement my coping mechanisms to have control over that anxiety. And for us neurodivergent folks, us neurodivergent men especially, because that's who I'm talking to this morning, and us neurodivergent black men, that anxiety, that medication, those coping mechanisms are the ways that we get whole, are the ways that we become the best versions of ourselves for the people that we love, for the people that need us, for the people who want to see us healthy, because when we are healthy individuals, it allows everyone else in that system, that family system, that friend system, that community to be healthy. All right. I said I was going to try to make these messages shorter. This was not shorter. But y'all, man, look at that sun. Y'all walking? Get out here, y'all. Get out here. This ain't about me. It's about us. We're in it together. Keep walking.